What's up, everybody? This is Colin from Holistic Heritage Homestead. I hope you're all well. Looks like the pond is filling up well from all of this rain we've been getting. Now, this is a pond that holds water relatively well. Last year, I did add a bunch of bentonite clay in hopes that it would hold better, and it seems to be working. I did excavate this or dig this out to make this much bigger than what was here before. So I did make this larger. It's pretty cool. And what I'm doing is I'm letting nature just run its course. When I called a gentleman last year to discuss stocking this pond with fish, he recommended letting it shake and bake for a year. So I'm letting nature just kind of pick the shape of the pond, and I'm letting water carve out natural paths to feed the pond. Now, I let this grow wild, as you can see. Okay, that was on purpose, because check out our Let It Grow video on why we let things grow wild, and you'll see exactly why. So I'm gonna make a little bank over here that's gonna be predominantly sand, okay? Little area to fish perhaps off of, okay? And we have a little feeder spot here, which is now a slow trickle, but is normally, oh, looks like there's some life in there, maybe some frogs or something. So this feeds, there is some moving water, which is a good sign. But what I need to do is to terraform this, carve this out so that the water can run better and smoother. Very happy with this. I have another spot over here. It's pretty cool. Essentially down the center of our property, there's a little path, for a little creek, I guess if you would call that runs this whole way, back all through that brush, all the way to the side of the property. So I'm going to carve that out, which will act as an overspill. As this gets higher and higher, it will feed backwards into this. Just some ideas, but it is holding well. You'll see obviously lots of algae. Doesn't look good, but I'm letting nature do its thing. Perhaps I'll compost some of this. I don't know, folks, what's some good use for algae? I've heard of people composting it, okay? Can you feed this to your livestock? I'm not sure. Something to definitely do research on. But what I'm going to do is introduce some aquatic plants to help oxygenate this water. I'd like to do this without a bubbler, or I'd like to do this completely natural if possible. And I'm thinking of stocking this with minnows, bluegill, perhaps hybrid bluegill. If you folks are knowledgeable about that stuff, please let me know if you recommend regular bluegill or hybrid bluegill. What do you think is best? Catfish, okay, I assume that would be channel catfish. And then maybe, this is not the biggest pond, and maybe some bass, but that would be really cool. I've heard that's a good combo, the minnows, the bluegill, and the catfish. For those of you that are knowledgeable, please help us out. Give us some feedback, give us some tips on what we can do to make this a friendly little happy fishing spot where you can come and relax with the family. I can tell you it's very warm right now. I believe it's in the 80s, or well into the 80s. And it is, you know, it's not summer yet, but there's no mosquitoes. I don't really have any mosquito pressure. Nothing like that, which is, I guess, a sign that the rest of the balancing wildlife and the frogs and all that stuff are doing their thing to keep that in check. So we are very excited. Pond project. Stay tuned. In the coming weeks and coming months, you're going to see this transformed into something very cool. Not sure if the video does it justice, but it's a decent size, folks. And we're very, very excited. Why consider ponds? Well, besides a hopefully renewable source of protein, which is healthy, you're gonna want that, right? You know, obviously food nowadays, okay? If you could have food in perpetuity growing in a pond, that is excellent. It's relatively hands-off. From my limited knowledge, I know that sometimes people do feed the fish. I'm not sure if you could feed them other things and supplement with things that you grow or produce on your own. Or hopefully you can create a little ecosystem where they can get their own food. I assume I would need to add more minnows as time goes by. and slash or create some little havens where the minnows can breed and do their thing and increase their populations. And I'm assuming with catfish, there's a restocking. So every time you pull a catfish out, you add some catfish in. But I'm trying to see what we can do to create something more sustainable. And folks, here's another thing that not a lot of people, I think, talk about from what I've seen on YouTube is scraps, fish. Anything from water has a lot of nutrients and vitamins and minerals and trace minerals, especially the ocean. That's why a lot of people harvest, seaweed or kelp or whatever from the ocean, because it has so many micronutrients and trace minerals. And a lot of times you buy fertilizer or specialty fertilizers, that's all it is. So even in fresh water, anything that I grow here that's going to be an aquatic plant that I place here, okay, and I'm not sure if this stuff that's not aquatic or semi-aquatic, whatever, the stuff growing in the middle of the water that is waterlogged will survive, but I'm sure that it is at least the stuff on the peripheral or periphery, whatever's the correct word there, folks. Okay, I'm assuming that is also just helping suck the excess nutrients out of the water, which will control the algae, because the roots are still pulling up all this overflow of nutrients here, which is pretty cool. So getting to the main point about the other benefit that nobody talks about, fish, okay? Nutrients from fish, from algae, from kelp, especially, again, if you can get to the ocean, probably even better. When you harvest your fish and you process that fish, you have scraps. Those scraps are excellent feed for your livestock, okay? You decide if you want to cook it or not, okay? Nature, animals don't have stoves for cooking capacity. I don't know if you folks are aware of that, but hey, do your own research, be safe, be clean, be hygienic, all that fun stuff. Folks, all those scraps go to your animals. Nothing goes to waste. And then your bones and the stuff that's not really edible and or the scraps they don't want becomes awesome compost. Now, if you're interested, I could just refer a great channel to talk about the details of how you can essentially compost anything that was living at one point, any organic matter, including meats and stuff like that. You cannot compost. Check out the channel David the Good. He has some good gardening channels and some survival gardening stuff out there. He is very, very knowledgeable when it comes to composting, folks. So he explains, I think, very well that there's a lot of energy trapped in food, in flesh, in meat, in fish. There's a lot of energy there, which makes sense because it has a high caloric content and you have fats and stuff like that. So it's energy. How do we unlock that energy? Eating it or composting it, letting nature break it down. So don't let that energy go to waste. In our system, if you check out our composting systems with our chickens, folks, it goes into one bin. They eat it. Whatever they don't eat, or the bones, stay in the compost feeder system. Okay, check out our previous videos on that. So there's no waste. I don't have to do, it's one thing. I throw it in, I feed the animals, I'm composting at the same time, right? So valuable scraps. Another quick tip for those of you that harvest other animals, deer, rabbit, for those of you that hunt or whatever, same thing. Entrails, guts, all that. Food for your livestock and phenomenal compost. Okay, so that was the sub benefit. The main benefit was the protein source. Okay, another benefit, huge benefit, fresh water around you at all times. Okay, thousands of gallons of fresh water. Now, I would not drink this directly. Okay, it is relatively stagnant. I would filter this, I would disinfect this, I would purify this. Berkeys work good, do your research, but either way, this could be relatively easily turned into drinkable water. Folks, point number 3, this in an downgrid or SHTF or things are bad scenario. We also live in a rural area, so it's something to consider. Water for putting out fires. Create a fire break around your home to limit, and I'm not going to get too into this, but fire is a weapon, And one day if fire is used against you, you're going to want the ability to put that out. Now you can create pumps and hoses and different things. The ideal way to handle a fire is to put it out while it's small. Okay? We're not our own fire department here, but again, water on different points of your property is just very good because things happen, accidents happen, and just another safety thing that I think not a lot of people think about. Okay? I don't think a lot of people think about fire safety and having water around and stuff like that. Okay, so you have your protein, you have your fresh water source for drinking, you have fire prevention capability, okay, and you have another thing. I don't know if you hear that beautiful sounds, but wildlife. You're creating another little ecosystem. When I dug this out and excavated this, there were crawfish, or I guess some people say crayfish, however you say it, crawfish in here, which is good. That's a good sign of life, and I believe. Okay. Thank you, Louisiana folks, and Cajuns could help me out with some good recipes on that stuff and let me know if it's edible. But if I catch any of those in the future, I'll be sure to get a video and try to figure out exactly what they are, but I'm pretty sure they're crawfish. Wildlife, frogs, different bugs. In order to have balance with the bad, quote unquote bad, or the pests, you need a place for the good stuff. This is a place for animals to come and hang out, drink, whatever they want to do. The birds, we have some nice trees in the back, what the birds really love. Behind that, you can see there's a little orchard. We have some trees, okay, some fruit trees. Folks, there's a lot of life here. And this is, I guess you would kind of say stage 2. Stage 1 would have been the excavation, okay, and the terraforming. Stage 2 is going to be healing and fixing this pond, and terraforming and creating a flow for the inflow and the outflow. I'm thinking of creating an outflow over there, putting a pipe under the ground and letting some excess water have a spillover, which, hey, you could use that to maybe grow some rice, because we have a seep on the other side over there, which water naturally bubbles out of the ground. So there's some interesting possibilities there. Another video, okay. And then I guess after that would be just stocking it and maintaining it, but I assume this would be stage 2 of the process. So stay tuned, like, comment, subscribe, comment below, let me know any resources you recommend, any channels where I could research exactly how to build and maintain a pond and how to stock it properly. I'm very excited about this. Let me know if you folks understand and agree. Food, water, okay? Scraps for your animals, right? Fire prevention, wildlife, okay? All right? All beneficial stuff, okay? Again, food, which is also scraps for your livestock and your compost and all that, right? Drinkable water, right? Fire prevention, and a habitat for wildlife. You can't beat it, folks. Consider a pond. Thank you so much for all the support and the subscriptions. And for those of you that have considered or have shared this, really, really appreciate it. Take care. Get it going, folks. Don't stop. Be well.